It's 453 minutes in New York City right now, and it's Saturday morning, August 21st. Welcome to the day. I just wanted to jump on here because a lot of stuff has happened in the last couple of days in regards to, the last time we did a live, I was talking about some of the reasons why Las Vegas might be struggling. It might be struggling in recovery. And one of the reasons was the Al Giant Stadium tax. Well, I don't know what's happened. We don't know what's happened. However, we know some serious, significant moves have happened at the Raiders organization in the last 48 hours have come out. I mean, this has happened over the last month or so, but now it's just leaking out. So, what's happened is 4 key executives have resigned from the Raiders. The president of the organization, who's been there for 30 years, he started with the organization right after grad school at UC Berkeley in Oakland. He went right from there to the Raiders, became the president for 6 months. 6 years. Moved to Las Vegas probably about 6 months ago, prior to the season, and then suddenly, last month, abruptly resigns with no explanation, no reason, nowhere to go, other than he just wanted to go home. And it made 0 sense, because what he also said was, hey, relocating the team from Oakland and building the stadium was the hardest thing he's ever done. And he was just so happy it was done. It seems weird that he would leave and not get the fruits of the labor that he put into it. Kick back in his nice place. I mean, he's president. So why would he quit? Well, there's a lot of speculation out there. Some people are saying that there might be an IRS debt. And some people are saying that's not it. Now, the people who are saying that it's not an IRS debt don't have another explanation. They're just saying they quit for no reason. Now, Mark Bedane, okay, that was one of the players. Now, the other players, let me get their names for you guys, because these are key. These are very, very important here for you guys to get this. Man. So we have, who else is it? We got the CFO. Now, the CFO, for those of you who don't know, that's the Chief Financial Officer. So the president and the Chief Financial Officer, those two guys, they work hand in hand all day long, every day together. I mean, especially if you're doing something like financing a stadium and doing all these transactions they were doing. And so those two guys resigned, just quit. Oh, we're just leaving. And then we also found out that the controller, and now the controller is also works in the finance department, is usually probably second in command to the CFO or the VP of Financial Department. And it depends how they're called. I haven't looked at their org structure, but I'm guessing it was his right-hand man, because you got the president, the CFO, the comptroller, and then you got VP of Biz Strategy. Now, what does he do? Well, let's get their names. The CFO his name is Ed Villanueva. The controller was Araxi Grant, and Brandon Dahl was the vice president of strategy and business development. Now, my experience with business development would be that he was out there trying to figure out new avenues for business, new revenues. So he's working obviously very closely with finance and the president too, in this relocation deal. Now, I don't know what's happened, but we do have a source. We have a source that's known Mark Davis for years. He's not on the internet. He doesn't do anything. He contacted us years ago, and we've been in contact. And he's told us some very, very interesting things. And the number one thing is, well, first of all, you take his stuff with a grain of salt, because he just can't stand Mark Davis. He just thinks the guy's a crook. Just thinks the guy's an absolute crook. And he just thinks that every time he picks up and moves, he's running away from things he owes or things that he committed to that now he doesn't want to do. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know Mark Davis, but this guy does. So that's his opinion of him. Now, until we see anything that would reflect that, we have to wonder. But we do have to wonder, well, what happens? Why would a team pack up and leave Oakland so quickly and then be in such a rush to finish their stadium so fast? I mean, it really did feel like a bamboozle. I mean, it felt like it just happened real fast. In Las Vegas, as you guys know, and this is one of the reasons we're talking why Las Vegas is struggling. In Las Vegas, they don't care if what you're doing, what project you're doing is viable. They do not care. If you've got the money to build a restaurant or a casino or a hotel or a stadium or whatever, if you got the money to do what you want to do, they will find a way for you to do it. And they'll get you the construction guys and they'll build it and they'll do it as fast as you want, as much as you want to pay. That's how fast they'll get it done. But they do not, and there's no leaders, executives, or anybody who's really, that we can tell, that are kind of overseeing like the viability of these projects that are launching. And the reason I know this is because since 2017, over 19 casinos will have traded hands or closed. 19 strip casinos, the big ones, have sold or traded hands. MGM's out. They don't practically own anything anymore. The largest real estate transaction in Las Vegas history happened, and nobody even really noticed it. And that was a $17 billion transaction where Vicky, which is the restructured Caesars group, when Caesars went bankrupt. I know, it's a chain of, it's just a comedy of errors that no one could see the signs, but Caesars goes bankrupt in 2015. Thank you, Furby. 5 o'clock, keep an eye on the time here. It's 0500 hours in New York City. So Furby is my little refurbished computer. So yeah, so why these guys didn't pick up on it, just a comedy of errors. So check it out. So let's just back up to some of the reasons why Las Vegas continues to struggle. And why it will struggle, because it's the infrastructure stuff, the stuff that when we were there, and I decided, hey, okay, I got a Naked Jedi channel. Check out my Naked Jedi channel. We do other stuff there. It's behind the scenes. But yeah, I was real depressed after 9/11. I got real down, really depressed, suicidal even, many times. Right. I was so suicidal, I even married my wife. Just kidding. But you know what? I was down when I met her, and she was down too. And that's why we kind of connected, because we're both kind of in the same place. And that's a side story. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because when I started kind of waking up, I found myself in Las Vegas in 2015. And I'm like, man, what's going on here? And what I noticed is that Sheldon Adelson, who I'm very familiar with because my family lives in Las Vegas as a result of Sheldon. My uncle, he was Sheldon Adelson's right-hand man for 40 years, 40 years. Met him here in Queens. That would be a good story. If I get my uncle on the phone, which I've tried, he divorced my aunt because she's nuts, and that's another story too. No, she's literally nuts because he's a casino guy, and she would go in and one time she blew an entire house on craps or something, playing in a casino one night. Blew their entire house. I'm not kidding. They had money put aside to buy a house, the down payment. It was all ready to go. It was a big project they were working on, and she took that money. She lost it. But he didn't divorce her then. He waited, man. He waited years to divorce her. She did a lot worse than that. That was just one example. So, anyways, I digress. It was just kind of a funny story. It's like sometimes you have to kind of know like what was happening at the time. So in 2015, Las Vegas is going nuts, okay? And we're all having the best time ever. And there's a lot of money flowing through there because it's bouncing back after 2008. And there's this EDM's crazy, and everything is just going crazy. And so they're just really boosting Vegas up. So Sheldon Adelson buys the Review Journal in 2015 to get the Raiders. Right. And then Caesars goes bankrupt. And then Vicky turns around and Vicky comes out of Caesars, and that's the refunction Caesars, and they buy all these properties that MGM used to own. And then they lease out the space to the casinos. So the tribal casinos are starting to come in because they're just renting out the spaces that are owned by Vicky. Vicky, again, is what? VICI? They're the new Caesars. I know it's a lot of just changing hands, a lot of like technical stuff. But at the end of the day, the reason why I'm mentioning all that because you see that Vicky is out there, restructuring, and then Sheldon buys the Review Journal, but doesn't tell anybody. Now, why wouldn't he tell anybody? Because he didn't want anybody to know that the Venetian owned the Las Vegas' only newspaper. Eventually, we found out, and no one did anything. They just let him have it. So he used the paper to manipulate the public opinion about getting a football team and a hockey team and sports teams in Las Vegas. Why? Something to do with his grandkids. That's the rumors I heard. I heard his grandkids were all about the sports team. But I don't know how much decision making Sheldon was making at the very end there because he was very sick with cancer. So I don't know how much he was in charge or his son-in-law, who was now the CFO, who was the one who did the secret transaction to buy the Review Journal. All this stuff to me, it just spells out corruption. And no one says a thing because everyone in Vegas is on the same page. They all want to do the same thing, which is to spur tourism, to bring in more tourists. So the newscasters, the reporters, the bloggers, everybody, deep down inside, they want more people to come to Vegas. So they're always kind of inadvertently pumping it up, even when they shouldn't. Even when they should say, hey man, tourism might not be a good idea right now. The reason why they cannot say that is because, well, that's their primary industry that sponsors everything in Las Vegas. The casinos refuse to say, hey, stop coming to Vegas. So instead what they do is they'll find anybody that'll come. Most recently, they're hosting, what's that, QAnon? Those QAnon people? You know what I'm talking about? Right, so they're hosting something at Caesars, like I think this weekend. Just like anybody that they can get to fill the hotel rooms. Because they have to pay for the Allegiant Stadium, which is owed $750 million. Now, Clark County owes the Raiders $750 for the stadium, right? Now the Raiders suddenly there's rumors flying around that Mark Bedane took on the books some information that a debt. He took on some debt that they've ignored for about 10 years, since 2008, 2009. And it might even stem back further than that. It has to do with a lot of the relocation and these are tax debts. And they felt that they didn't owe it, or Mark Bedane and the CFO and the VP of Biz Development felt they didn't owe it. Or at least they convinced themselves, or Mark, who knows? I don't know. I don't work there. Somehow they didn't pay it. And I'm just speculating. I'm just going off of the, I'm reading between the lines because no one's saying anything because there's nothing out there. But, the president, CFO, controller, and VP Dev all leave the same month and with nowhere to go. You have to wonder what's going on. Now some leaks coming out. Plus my inside source who knows Mark Davis personally tells me that Mark Davis and the Raiders owe a sizable debt that is now on the books that Mark Bedane has been ignoring. So now, as a result, yes, they have to pay it back. Oh, hey, good morning, Timmy Tom. Hey, man, where you been? How you been, bro? Coming in for some more fake news? Hey, man, listen, we find stuff out. When we figure it out, we tell you. And then you tell us if it's incorrect. That's how journalism works today. That's how it's going to work moving forward, is that I'm going to go out and find stuff. I say it, you hear it, and you say that's not true, and you research it yourself. And you prove me wrong. Great, now I learned something, right? And that's just how it goes. So what I learned today, and I'll tell you guys what I learned today, was this, is that the Raiders have well, I can't say anything because I don't know anything, unfortunately. I just don't. You know, I really don't. I just I just read between the lines here. So when you have like the entire finance department and then the president leave, the executives inside someplace leave, that then you have to wonder, right? You have to ask yourself this. What's going on? Think about it. If you worked in an office, if you're an assistant or even one of the sales guys, or all of a sudden you found out that the president who's been there forever, oh, lights are going out, batteries going out, so it's about time for me to wrap it up here. I'm having a great time catching up with you guys, but I just wanted to finish it up here. I hope you guys got the best gist of what's kind of happening there. What we don't know, but what I heard was, and I'll post I did a phone call with the guy who knows Mark Davis personally, so I'll post that video on YouTube today, so you guys can learn what I learned. And what he said was that Mark Bedane took on a sizable debt, or the Raiders did, but Mark Bedane has been ignoring it and has not paid it. Now, apparently, this is a tax debt. It's not a loan. It's a tax debt. Has to be, because what else could span longer than 10 years, right? And also, what else has this sort of, like, who could you owe that would make you want to quit your job? Only the U.S. government. That's the only people that would ever, like, if he owed some construction workers, they owed a bunch of money to some deal they did back in Oakland or whatever, the state, you know, that's not going to make you quit your job. The only way you quit would be is if the federal government's involved. And I don't know if the federal government's involved, but I'm just saying that some government agency might be pressing this debt, because that's the president, the CFO, the VP of Strategic Biz Dev, and the comptroller all leaving within the same month. And now rumors are flying around that it has to do with this debt that was put on the books. Now the question is it an IRS debt or not? How much is it? You know, I've heard that the debt amount is anywhere from $600 million to $1.5 billion. Now, if they owe that, and because, you know, if it's tax stuff and they owe it, if it's taxes, then what that means is serious implications for Las Vegas. Because, see, Clark County owes the Raiders $750 million for that big, shiny new stadium. Now, if the Raiders go BK, like let's say they owe that $600,000 to wherever, the government or wherever, that's going to pretty much BK these guys. Yeah, and you can't get to, not to mention they're losing a ton of money on their season tickets. Mark Davis has had to offer full refunds to all the people, because, see, Vegas is in this thing, hey, everyone's got to come to the games. Everyone come to the games. Everyone come to the games. But then there's this pushback. The rest of the world is all saying, hey, man, there's this COVID thing going on. No one feels safe going to games. So they're trying to, how are we going to get people games? Well, they had to make the call. They said, hey, tell you what, let's make vaccinations required. You know, that'll keep the numbers down, and plus keep the CDC off our back and the White House off our back and all that stuff. So that is then also is going to apply pressure onto the Raiders, because now they're out, from what I understand, about $512 million on this year's season tickets alone, just from doing the COVID home games. So now what they're doing is having to give refunds to people and give them credit for next year. So the year coming up, they're not going to get a lot of season tickets. They already had to postpone a lot of stuff, and now they're deferring those payments for the season tickets for the following year. So next year there won't be extra revenue coming in either, because they'll be the paying back for the year before. So they're piling up all this debt. Now we find out that there's huge debt that come out of nowhere. And if they owe that, then what does that do to the Raiders organization? I mean, you have to wonder what's happening in the Raiders organization when the president, the CFO, the comptroller, and the VP of Biz Strat all leave. Right there, just those people leaving, you have to wonder what is going to happen to the organization, right? I mean, one of them leaving is bad enough, but all four, that's a big hit. And they all resigned, and now there's outside lawyers involved. So those guys are going to want to get paid. Those guys will want to get their information from whatever's happening. So, I mean, I don't know if any of this stuff will ever be made public. I'm sure something will happen, because probably they're going to owe some stuff. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there for you guys. So that's all I know for now. And that's what you have for this morning. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe if you find any of this stuff useful. Again, this channel is just about pretty much just whatever you feel like having fun, depending on what's going on that day. You know, a lot of times we talk about weight loss, bulimia, or health stuff. Sometimes we're talking about the Raiders. Sometimes we're talking about Las Vegas and things that are happening in Las Vegas and the struggles that they're having. And other times we'll be posting stuff about New York City here. You know, like for example, I just posted something on the 9/11 Memorial at Liberty Park. You guys should check that out. For those of you who don't know, this is the 20-year anniversary of the 9/11. A lot of people were greatly affected by 9/11. And this would be a great year. If you guys have not traveled or have not been around, this would be a great year for you to check out the Liberty Memorial. It's the 20-year anniversary. And not just because to make you feel bad because you're obviously, because it's fun. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect, but then you get there and you start to feel things, and you feel things in a way that you're like, whoa, man, it's just kind of a really, really, really good feeling. So check out the 9/11 Memorial this year if you guys can. And plus, rates are very reasonable here in New York City. I mean, people are telling me about, hotel prices in other places, but New York, I think, has very competitive hotel prices. So, you guys, please just have a great day. I don't even know what I was going to say. Just run out. If you have any questions, DM me. I've got stuff on the website, JediRich.com. And